Today on Everything Now.
So there needs to be like more Black yogis, more Black Pilates practitioners, more Black Reiki, like everything. Like if there's more of us, it's like strength in numbers.
It has nothing to do with appreciating life. It's just giving the right medical procedure.
Well, I think that sex, politics, and spirituality might be the better name for this podcast.
I don't know, but I have an unpopular opinion.
Welcome to Everything Now, the Mindful News and Culture Show. I'm Joseph Armstrong, and the time for healing is right now. Here's 5 things to know about healing. 1. Did you know that meditation can reduce symptoms of anxiety by 39%, leading to a measurable overall increase in life satisfaction? By tapping into our inner wellspring of wisdom and love, we wake up an innate healing power within, creating a sense of wholeness and contentment. 2. Studies have shown that mindfulness-based practices can lead to a 40% decrease in pain intensity for those recovering from illness and injury. By cultivating present moment awareness and non-judgmental acceptance of bodily sensations, mindfulness and meditation empower individuals to develop a different relationship with pain, enhancing their overall well-being and promoting faster physical recovery. 3. There is a significant reduction in relapse rates among individuals who incorporate physical and psychological wellness practices into their addiction recovery journey. Research shows that mindfulness-based interventions can decrease relapse rates by up to 50%. These individuals develop greater awareness of cravings, triggers, and habitual patterns, empowering them to respond skillfully rather than reactively. This statistic highlights the transformative potential of mindfulness in supporting long-term recovery and providing individuals with invaluable tools for sustainable healing and relapse prevention. 4. It turns out that our wounds hold the key to profound healing, and physical activities like yoga and Pilates are transformative catalysts. Research highlights that mindful movement practices can activate the relaxation response, engaging the vagus nerve, which acts as a braking mechanism, creating calm via the autonomic nervous system. Studies reveal that practicing yoga and Pilates can reduce stress and depression by up to 50%. By mindfully moving our bodies, we bridge the gap between our physical and emotional experiences, unlocking inner calm and resilience. 5. Spiritual healing is a collective awakening, where compassion and connection intertwine. Did you know that acts of kindness increase oxytocin levels, promoting a sense of well-being and connection? By fostering loving kindness and engaging in compassionate action towards ourselves and others, we participate in the healing of the world, recognizing that our individual journey is an integral part of the greater whole. Thanks for joining us. Today's guest is Johanna Thompson, and she is an icon of the Miami health and wellness scene, and interestingly, also an icon of the nightlife scene. She's better known as Jungle Johanna, so maybe welcome to the jungle would be a better welcome for today's guest. How did you get that name?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Of course. I actually gave that name to myself. I was married at the time when like Instagram came out, and so like my first and last name were my Instagram name, and I was in the middle of a divorce, and I was like, oh, I need a name. And I want something like catchy, you know, like I wanted something that could be my Instagram name, but then could also be like a stage name as well. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Tarantino films, but I love Quentin Tarantino, always have. And there is a movie called Death Proof. And in this movie, I want to say it's I don't know who the main actor is, but it's pretty much like he's got this car and the car is death proof, but only in the driver's seat. So he picks up these like hot girls and then they die. And like, I've always wanted to be in a Tarantino film. I think he's got like the hottest girls. He always uses like all kinds of races of females. And there's a character named Sidney Poitier in real life. Her dad is Sidney Poitier. So it's Sidney Poitier's daughter. And it's named after an LA radio host named Jungle Julia. And this was a real person that Quentin Tarantino was like obsessed with her. Like, he had a thing for black girls. He was like obsessed with them. And he based a lot of his characters off of real people. So her name was Jungle Julia. She was a TV radio personality, and she was like a beautiful black girl with like long black curly hair. And I think I was watching the movie one day, and I was like, Jungle Johanna, that's it. And I took it.
It's perfect. It's a powerful name.
It is.
And it really speaks to what you have to offer, right?
I think so, because I think if you know me and you know my journey, I've always been multifaceted, multi-hyphenate. It's been modeling, it's been nightlife, it's been fitness, and you spoke to the fitness aspect. I'm now like full in, all into the wellness, because I just feel like, yeah, jack of all trades, but master of none. And I've always had this like fear, and I think it stems from, I mean, I'm sure it stems from childhood, because everything stems from childhood, but I think with like my like past relationships, I've always had this like abandonment fear. And so I felt like if I have my hand in different things, I'll always have like a million sources of income. And like if something happens with the modeling, then I could work in the club. And if the club's slow, I'll do the fitness. But it's like, you don't want to throw all your eggs in one basket, but like it's kind of beautiful to watch those eggs hatch.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of stemmed out of nightlife in the beginning of December, which is when our kind of journey started and our relationship started. And since then, I've been all in with health and wellness, and it's been amazing. And like, I wish I did it sooner. But I think you have to have that experience of like, it's fear, right? It's fear-based. And it's like, I had to get like real confident in my craft and be like, well, why would I not just do this health and wellness? Like, I'm good at it. Like, why not do it? You know, I think I always had this fear of like comparing myself to others, or, you know, also like a little bit of like FOMO, like still wanting to be in the modeling, still wanting to be in the nightlife, still wanting like, I wanted to be known for like doing all these different things. But it's like, I see now that like brands don't want a chick that works at Space representing their yoga mats. Like, they don't want that, you know? And then the nightclub don't really want sober people. You know what I mean? It's like, I embody a little bit of things for different demographics, but I feel like what am I the happiest and what is the best for me, and like what, like long term, what do I want? I want to be healthy and happy. So like I've been like 10 toes down in like Pilates and yoga and like only doing fitness events, and like it's been amazing.
And it's interesting because like complex beings, we are complex beings, right? And we're not just one thing, even though people want to pigeonhole us that way. But at the same time, I have a teacher who often says that you've got to, if you want to hit the water, you've got to dig one deep well, right? You can't keep digging all these little holes.
I agree.
And get to the water. You've got to get in one place, and you've got to dig down until you get to that thing that you want.
Consistency. And that's like what it's about. I have a healer that it's like my spiritual advisor, and I go to her with a lot of stuff. And I remember when I was making this transition out of the club, I got like a reading with her, and she was like, if you just stay consistent for 6 months and just focus only on that, she's like, even if you're not getting the brand deals, even if you're not getting like the results, like don't be in the results business, be in the action business. Like it's gonna work out for you. And like even to this day, like I still was like doing events, like doing other stuff. And she's like, girl, what are you doing? Like, why are you not just going all in on this? Like, and it's hard because we have blinders, right? And I think like we see like abundance, or we see like, you know, okay, if I do this, I do this, or like this is easy money or whatever. But it's like so many doors have opened since I've completely like let that go. And it was hard because the money was good and it was like chaos, which like I love, you know, and like I'm sober and I got to like vicariously live through all these like crackheads and be like, all right, I'm the sober girl. Like there was like this superiority, like it was a lot. And it was like I had to be present, and it was like actually like not working late and not working weekends. Like I had to be present for my family, present for my stepdaughter, present for my partner. And I didn't know what to do. Like I liked being the busy girl that just was like booked and busy. Like I love that. Like the hustle and the grind like has been ingrained in me. We're Jamaican. So like I've been working since I was 12.
But you just very quickly glossed over such an important teaching of wellness and spirituality, and that's that you've got to do the right thing, and then you've got to get out of the results business. And this is bedrock of recovery philosophy, but it's also core to spiritual traditions around the world, like yoga, for instance. A main teaching is that you've got to just do your duty. You've got to do what's right. You've got to get in touch with your intuition to understand what's right, do the thing, and then it's done. What happens after that is the responsibility of some other force, whatever force that might be, right? And that's such an important and hard lesson to actually get into. So with that in mind, maybe it's good to ask you, for you to tell me a little bit about yourself. You could tell us about your background, and however you want to relate your experience, strength, and hope in this life.
Yeah. I grew up in Jersey, and I was always a ballerina. Like, that's what I did from like age 3 to like 17. So I was always like in a movement field. And then I kind of got into my addiction in high school, mostly alcohol, some drugs, but really drinking. And so, like, that really stonewalled my dancing, obviously, because, like, I'd be drunk and, like, falling off stage. And I was graduating high school, and I wanted to model, and I was like, I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to model. And, like, my parents supported me, enabled me, but supported me. And then I got into, like, modeling and more, addiction. And then I ended up moving to Florida. My parents bought a house in Tampa when I graduated, so I, like, pretty much followed them, like, shortly after, because my life was just not sustainable in New York. And I started going to school for fashion, and I got more into my addiction. I started dating a bartender. At this time, I was in a relationship with a woman, so like I thought I was gay fully. Like I fully come out, like I was like, this is me. And I thought that's who I was at 19. And I was just getting more consequences of my actions. I pretty much like would get violent. I would black out and get violent. And like violence is like a huge, like, it's just like a corroding thread through my whole life. Like I still get in trouble with like anger, and it's something that it's like really like a daily struggle for me. But I pretty much got an ultimatum from my partner, and she was like, listen, like you need to get sober, or like we're done. So I like sought out AA, which is where I found recovery. I didn't stay sober from that first introduction, but it definitely planted a seed. And she ended up moving to Miami. I ended up moving to Miami shortly after. Didn't really have a program. I wasn't drinking, but I wasn't doing any of the tools that, we need to sustain that recovery. And I ended up drinking again, and we broke up, of course. And I ended up starting over, and I got sober at 21. I've been sober since then.
How long is that?
13 years ago.
Congrats.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
And it is. And then I ended up like getting married, like real quick, because like, insecurities and just like, okay, this person's nice to me, and like they have money, and like, okay, this sounds like safe. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to worry about trying to like, delve through my sexuality or like what I really like. I figured like if I just had this like person or this idea of like a relationship, I could focus on my recovery. And honestly, that's what happened. So it was an amazing experience for me, because when that relationship ended 5 years later, like I had a little bit of tools to like stay sober through that. I don't know if I would have been able to navigate sobriety and like modeling and like living in South Beach at 21. Like I would have drank or like gotten in trouble. You know what I mean? It was just like too many stimulants for me. And that relationship ended. I'd always kind of been in nightlife. I had been in nightlife in Tampa. I was like a bartender. My ex-girlfriend was a bartender. I was like a hostess in Miami. So nightlife was always like kind of in and out. And I was getting divorced. I had like no money. My friend told me if I worked at this club, they would give me insurance. I was like, I need insurance. So I started working at this club. Then I started doing bottle service, and I was making like more money than I had ever made in my life through modeling anything. I was making like thousands of dollars a night. It was like insane. And I always wanted to get certified in Pilates. Like I'd done Pilates as a dancer. I had done Pilates as a model. My mom had done Pilates. And it started my fitness journey. I started my first certification, started working at my first studio in 2016. And then I started at a different studio that I was at for 4 years. I did some continuing education in Pilates. I got my yoga certification in 2018. And then I kind of just started doing the yoga Pilates. I was still doing some fitness stuff too. I had a lot of clients that I trained, but I would say maybe like after the pandemic, I really honed in and like decided to keep my niche in yoga and Pilates. I saw that like all the Black people I knew in fitness were like strength and like weights and like track and field. And I was like, there's not a lot of yoga people. So I really wanted to like be that. I wanted to be that voice of that, and really like be a staple in the community for that. And
Well, that's something
yeah.
we are really caring a lot about here in our community, is trying to find more inclusive, a more inclusive atmosphere, right? So here we seek out a more diverse teaching staff. We offer amazing things like our queer yoga club, which bring in a community that doesn't always feel like it has a home. And I think that you're talking about something really important there. So you are a very popular trainer, right? You teach at a bunch of different places. You work with private clients. I know that you just recently did your first very successful retreat.
Yes.
And I just wonder if you could speak to like how fitness and wellness contributes to personal growth and self-discovery. And maybe there's some particular experience that you've had or observed that really speaks to the power of these practices.
I mean, if you know anything about recovery, like the problem is usually not the substance, the problem is you, and then it manifests into the substance, whether it's drinking, gambling, sex addiction, cocaine. And so, you know, if you get into the steps, which is how I got sober, it's really about changing you. You know, it's like minus the alcohol and then it's you. So I found that when I got sober and I stopped drinking, I was actually worse than when I was drinking, because alcohol was like the glue that held me together. So you took it away from me, and then I was like, oh, shit, you know, like I had a lot of work to do. And I was grateful because I had that gift of desperation where like I had nothing when I came into AA. And so I really had nowhere to go but up. But with that, you know, I was also growing up in recovery. So I was making a lot of mistakes that 19, 20, 21-year-olds make, you know? So I was making, you know, mistakes in relationships, making mistakes in business. And what AA ultimately taught me is like, you know, here's who I am. There's some things about me that aren't that great. Let's look at them. Let's face them. Let's change them. Let's make amends for them. And now let's create this person that we want to be, you know? And so when I did that process, and I've done that process a few times in recovery, I really learned to love who I was. And it didn't make me like, it's funny because like, if you know me on social media or if you know me in real life, like, I wouldn't say that I'm like, I'm not for everybody. Like, and I never have been, and I don't want to be. Like, some people do not like me. Some people think I'm aggressive. Some people don't like my look. Some people don't like what I have to say. Some people don't like my teaching style. And I'm really okay with that. So it took me out of the space of wanting to be for everybody, because it's kind of the same thing we talked about in like my career. Like, if I'm for everybody, then I'm for nobody, you know? And I've watched, like, I had a business partner, we were really good friends, and we were in the fitness industry together. And I see them now, you know, we don't speak, we're totally cordial and civil and respectful towards each other, but I see the way that they move in the fitness industry, and it's like they're for everybody. And like, that I guess works for them, but like, I never want to be a cloud chaser. I never want to kiss anyone's ass. I'm never going to kiss a studio owner's ass. Like, here's my rates, you book me, you can't afford me, bye. You don't want me to teach, bye. And it's not because I'm better or ego. It's like, I know what I have to offer. And if you don't think what I have to offer is enough, that's okay.
And I think that what you're getting at is really valuable, because self-confidence is a big issue for so many people out there. And one of my personal biggest lessons from recovery was that they teach you that you can be of service from day 2, right? So day 1, you walk through the door and you're maybe not quite sober yet and you're a mess. But day 2, you have one day, and then you have something to teach those people who just walked in the door, right? And there are people out there who need to learn from you about this self-confidence question.
And I think also when it comes to yoga, it's like, you know, I haven't had the best experience with yoga studios. I'm not a fan of where I got certified initially. I'm just not a fan of the practice of like, I don't understand why we have to like pretend to be spiritual. Like, let's cut the bullshit. This is appropriation, okay? All yoga is appropriation. I'm not Indian. Most yoga is a religion. Asana is just one part of that religion. Meditation is part of it. Fasting is part of it. There's a whole bunch of other things. So white people went to India and the Beatles and they thought the shit was sweet and they came and decided to make money off of it. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But why are we pretending that like we're spiritual when we're charging $40 for yoga classes? When I see studios that have teachers cussing people out in Starbucks and not paying their front desk staff, like I can't get down with that. So I don't claim spirituality because my spirituality is personal to me, and I would never want someone to be like, oh, but you claim all this shit and you're not that. My mantra is do no harm and take no shit. That's all it is. So I'm not gonna harm you, but if you try to harm me, I'm gonna bring the fucking noise. And that's as basic as I can be. And even that sometimes is a struggle. Like sometimes I am harmful. And sometimes I do take shit when I'm not supposed to. I'm working with this woman right now. We're trying to do a yoga event together. And she's like, how much should I charge? And I'm like, $100. And she's like, I have a hard time taking money. I was like, well, you're a business owner. These people don't have a hard time taking money from you, you know? And it's not saying like everything should be for profit, but it's like, why is it when we're talking about BIPOC or people of color, it's a free class? It's a community class. What happened to Black luxury? Like, why are we doing this whole like, oh, underprivileged and like fuck that. Like, I'm not underprivileged. Like, I'm a queen. I got money, I make money, I'm self-made, I'm self-paid, I'm self-taught, I'm self-bought. Why do I need to go into your like rinky-dink yoga studio and teach a class for $10 so that you can use me as your token pawn to say that you give a fuck about Black people when you don't? Because if you really did give a fuck about Black people, you wouldn't be using my light ass, right? So it's really particular for me. I do my own thing a lot. You know, I work with you guys because I like what you guys are doing, and you also let me be me, you know? And we also saw that like it didn't work. We were like, damn, okay, we tried this class, it's not working. Let's save it for the photo shoot for Edgar. Let's save it for the events. Let's save it for the podcast. Like, my style doesn't work everywhere, especially in like really traditional yoga studios, because people don't necessarily want yoga lattes. People really want that spiritual component. And I don't offer that. And I'm never going to offer that. And when I want the spiritual component, I know where to go to. You know, that was another thing too. I was like, I need to do sound baths and sound healing, and I need to do the harmonium. No, I'm not chanting. I'm not doing any of that shit. And I'm not saying those things are wrong. It's just not me. You know, I'm gonna play hip hop. I'm gonna play Future. I'm gonna play Drake. Like, that's my class, and that's what I have to offer. And I was told where I got certified in yoga that I wasn't allowed to play hip hop and yoga. They were like, do you want to be the Black girl that plays hip hop and yoga? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Of course I do.
Well, you know, people sometimes, they just can't open up to the realm of possibility. You know, like, we don't need to be pigeonholed into one thing. And, you know, to be authentic, we have to let people have space, you know, and there's a different path for everyone. And even though I hear you saying you're not spiritual, I do pick up a lot of spiritual vibes from what you teach, especially through these PSAs of yours that I love.
I mean, I am spiritual in the sense of like, I'm connected to a higher power that drives me, but I don't come with this like fake pseudo spirituality. I don't come with this like community and like I just don't come with that, because I see it. And at the end of the day, like, your studio, it's for profit. That's okay. It's a business. We're running a business. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if we want inclusivity, you know, we have to have inclusive teachers. We have to have teachers from different backgrounds. We have to, you know, offer different types of classes. And then at the same time, it's like, well, where does it become like inclusivity, but then it's a circus, right? because it's like, we want inclusivity, but we still want to stay true to like yoga and what it means, and Pilates and what it means. Like, we don't need like twerking or like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, where is the fine line where like we're staying true and we're offering like elevated wellness with people of color? It's like, that's what I've always struggled with, you know, because when I'm too black, people don't like that. But then when I'm too white, I don't like that. So where do I find myself of like, okay, this is who I am. How do I bring my background and still keep it elevated? Because I want to charge $150 for the class. And I think I should be able to, you know? There's a huge demographic of people of color that have money. Why aren't they in your studio? That's a you problem, because these people have money and they're spending it on all sorts of stuff. So why aren't they coming to the studio? Oh, I don't do Pilates. Well, why don't you? Oh, it's not for me. Well, why do you think that? Who made you feel that Pilates wasn't for you? Why don't you have teachers that look like you? So for me, that's the demographic I'm trying to reach.
Yeah, and it sounds to me as well that you're getting at like an issue of alignment. Like, things have to fall into a very precise alignment in order for everything to work well. And this is an experience we've had here in our studio with our queer yoga club. And that's that we've tried to have events like high dollar, highly produced events with guests who made the whole thing a struggle, like guest teachers who made the whole event a struggle. And then in the end, we sold maybe 10 spots, right? But then we get into alignment with something like our queer yoga club, and it's easy. Like, nothing about it is difficult. And the people just pour in the door because there's a need for it. And there's a sincere, aligned community for it. And I think that you're setting yourself up for that as well. You're doing a new training, I saw, in Pilates.
Yes. So it's my first Pilates certification. People have asked me for like years, like, are you gonna ever teach people Pilates? And I was like, no, I don't wanna do that. And you know, it's funny, where I got certified Pilates, I would refer people there all the time. I'm really good friends with the owner. They're really sweet. They're very classical. Like, they're not trendy at all. They know what they're doing, but they're, you know, I think so much has changed with COVID and with social media, where like, people want to be best friends with their trainer or best friends with their teachers. You know, it's not just about, oh, did she deliver a good workout? But it's like, they want to, you know, go to all her classes and go to the retreats. And, you know, you want to be friends with this, which is why I say, like, you know, I still look at my skill set as a business. So I'm not necessarily best friends with my clients. I'm close to some of them, but I care more about like making you feel good on and off the mat versus like trying to be friends with you. I don't know. Like, I still have like a very cathartic way. And maybe I need to work on that. I don't know. But like, I like the business side of things. And anyway, they always tell people like, oh, she gives us so much business. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm giving y'all my business. So I kind of like just buckled down one day. I kind of went through like a creative, like I had a creative wind like 2 weeks ago where I just kind of like did my vision board, and I don't know, all these like ideas came to life for me. And I decided to structure my Pilates certification. So it's the 32 classical Pilates moves, which is across the board standard from Joseph Pilates. It's going to be anatomy, but it's also going to incorporate sculpt and props. And I think it's really important because a lot of these boutique fitness studios that, you know, they're a lot smaller and they're not using machines. It's like the mats and then weights, bands, booty bands, balls, things like that. And that's kind of like what I'm seeing as the future of boutique fitness. And that's what I see people like. And they're doing, you know, rooftops, or they're doing hot, heated, and it kind of seems to be the jam. And then of course they're incorporating yoga, but it's a lot more trendy. You know, it's not really about Ashtanga. It's not really about the classical movements. It's really about like the music and the vibe, and I'm really good at that. You know, I'm really good at the technical stuff, but I'm really good at the vibe as well. And so I'm pretty much going to be teaching that. I don't know any women of color that are hosting a Pilates retreat. If there are any, let me know, but I think I'm kind of the first in that field. I'm also going to be gifting a scholarship program. So if you're identify as a female and you are BIPOC, I'm inviting you to email me. I've gotten a lot of submissions already, but emailing me as to why you want this certification. You can't have a certification in fitness already. So you can't be like a yoga girl who's like, oh, I want to get this Pilates. Like, go pay for your shit. Like, stop. And I want someone that, you know, wouldn't be able to afford it whether they don't live here. So it's like they have to pay for their ticket and their hotel and the certification. Just extenuating circumstances. And I've gotten like maybe like 6 submissions already.
Awesome.
And it's a lot. Like women that are raising their families, you know, on one income for 3 kids and a husband, women that have, you know, just different types of backgrounds, just all kinds of stuff, you know? So I've just kind of been marinating on it and seeing how I'm gonna go forward with choosing whom I choose. But, you know, I'm really encouraging people that are wanting to get into their fitness journey, especially women of color, people of color that don't really feel, and you know, they've told me, women have messaged me and been like, I've never felt safe in a Pilates studio. I've never, like, I have people that travel just to come to take my class because of the music I play, because of the way that I treat them in the class, you know what I mean? And I'm just, like, it shouldn't be like that. No. You know, like, it doesn't have to be like that, but unfortunately it is. So if I can break that mold, and it's not an expensive membership, it's not an expensive certification. Like, where I got certified, I paid $900, I'm charging $1,000, you know? So it's not like a $2,000, you know, it's nothing like that. And we're offering, you know, the ability to pay over time, and yeah.
I love what you're getting at there because, you know, one more sort of recovery cliche that I love is that if you want to keep what you have to give it away. And what you're describing is a way where you're doing something that's for you. Like you're going to get success and wealth and out of this, but you're also finding a way to offer it to others and to make it something that's of service. So I think that that's really smart, and I think it's also really spiritual, if you ask me. And one other thing that I think is a PSA, one other thing that I think is something that you give away that's of great value are these PSAs that you do. All right.
I love them.
So as a way to sort of wrap up our talk today, I want to talk about a couple of things that I've heard you say in these, and then I want to ask you about how this got started, how you come up with them, but we'll get there in a moment. First of all, in one PSA, you identified yourself as "Get the Bag Jill," and where is this a common phrase? Where did this come from? Do people say this? And
yes, people say this. So like I've always, you know, I talked about the hustle culture. Like I'm always like making money and training people, and I was always very vocal about my success, and I was vocal about my success not to show off, but it's like it's inspiring. You know what I mean? And like, you know, it's really easy to like make money when like you don't have kids and you don't really have like a stable relationship, and you can just kind of hop on a plane and do stuff. And then all of a sudden, 4 years ago, I got in a relationship with a guy who has a daughter. And so like my idea of success changed. My mom worked through, I mean, she took like 3 months off for maternity, but like my mom worked through my entire childhood. I barely saw my mom. She gave me an incredible work ethic, but like I never thought about having children. I didn't consider myself a maternal person. I didn't really like kids. I wasn't really interested. I wasn't like, I don't know. I was interested in like traveling and like making money and like being with someone who had money and just like kind of doing my entrepreneurial thing. And so when this paradigm like shifted for me, it made me really like take a step back and look at like, oh wow, like it's really hard to like do all these things work-wise and then like show up for your family. And so it created this like, I really had to make some changes. And it made me realize that like, you know, this money that I'm chasing, this fulfillment that I'm chasing through money is really not it. Because money's numbers and numbers don't end. So if you keep chasing numbers, like you're always gonna be looking for something. And that's a big thing with addicts. Like addicts are very big on like more. One is too many and 1,000 is never enough. Like I've always had this issue with money and the need to make money and the need to flex. Like this is like an issue I have. Like it's not like I turn it into something positive, but like it's not positive. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's something that I've always like struggled with, and I like to turn, you know, my pain into like, you know, relatable stuff. But, you know, I get sick. I would, you know, I was working at Space for fuck's sakes, like not conducive, but I was making money.
Miami, by the way.
Yeah, it's a nightclub. It's like an after hours club. It's like heavily drugs, just a lot of drugs. And I'm sober, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm making money. And like, meanwhile, like my entire like psyche is like, I'm a zombie, I'm miserable, I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm getting sick all the time, I'm breaking out, I'm not spending time with my family. So, you know, I've really had to adjust my idea of like what the bag is. And the bag has changed from like money to like peace, to like being able to like create these programs where I can like teach and give of myself. And like, yeah, I'm still making money, but I'm also like, you know, I'm not helping anyone where I'm serving you alcohol. Like, I'm not enriching your life, you know what I mean? But I am enriching you when I'm teaching you how to make money as an instructor, how to make money as a Black instructor, how to, you know, monetize your look, monetize your Instagram, monetize your personality, you know, because that's the stuff that you can't learn in any certification. No certification can teach you how to be you.
Yeah.
And how I've made money is because I'm me. Like, there's plenty of Pilates instructors, there's plenty of yogis, there's a lot of people that are better than me in that craft, but are they me? No, not even close.
And I love that because, again, you're talking about authenticity. That same PSA, you said to find the ease of trust in the universe. And I actually thought that that was a really beautiful phrasing that, again, gets to the core of like trying to let go of this need
Let go or get dragged, baby.
yeah, to control everything.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, we've got to find that ease for things to be worthwhile.
Of course.
So thank you for sharing that. I want to wrap up, and I want to finish by asking you, what would you like listeners to take away from our conversation today? It could be a word of advice. It could be something about upcoming events, whatever you want to share here.
I mean, if you want to know anything about me, you can go to my Instagram. I don't want to sell you because I feel like that's so like, I don't know. I don't like that. I think if you're, you know, I think wellness doesn't necessarily have the best rap, especially when it comes to people of color. As far as we've come with all these workouts and all these events and retreats, we still have a long way to go with inclusivity and diversity. If you are scared about stepping into that space, you're not alone, but like, we need you to step into that space because I need to carry the torch. You know what I mean? Like, if there's more of us, like, yo, we can't be stopped. You know what I mean? So there needs to be like more Black yogis, more Black Pilates practitioners, more Black Reiki, like everything. Like, if there's more of us, it's like strength in numbers. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't not book us because we're in there. And it comes from us. Like, everything that is great in this world was taken from us. You know what I mean? All the indigenous practices, all of the culture, all of the music, all of the style and the swag and the food, it comes from us. So they taught us that we didn't belong when in actuality, like, they needed to take it from us to belong, you know? So I really want anyone that is, you know, thinking about taking that yoga class, like, come, show up here, you know, show up to this studio. I don't even teach here, but show up here, you know, because I've always felt welcome here. And it's really one of the only yoga studios that I can vouch for and say that I've always felt welcome. The other studios I teach at, I think we're great as well. We don't offer yoga as much. It's more Pilates based, but like, we need you to be here. You know what I mean? Because if it's me and all my clients are white and I'm just like that, it's like, I don't want to be the only Black yoga girl. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want to sit on a panel with like 30 other females or 30 other, you know, males from all different colors that teach and have the followers and have the, you know what I mean? It's like, you got to start somewhere. And I think that fear that's keeping you from the mat is like, showing up is the hardest part, you know? So I really encourage anyone, and maybe you don't feel comfortable coming into a class yet, whether it's, you know, at home, on YouTube, whatever, doing your thing, but like, any problem I've ever had, really, like, once I conquered drugs and alcohol, like, I got out on the mat, you know? That's why I do this, you know? And so I think it's really important to show up, you know? And maybe you're not showing up for you yet, but you show up for me. Like, sometimes I show up for my class, and I'm not really showing up for me, you know? So like, whatever gets you there, like, just get there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jungle. So finishing with a call to action, get out there, get involved, come to a training with Jungle, come to a class, but get involved. So we'll be right back with our news roundup. If you're enjoying this episode of Everything Now, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hi there, welcome back to Everything Now. We are going to move right into our news roundup, and we still have Johanna with us.
Hello.
We have another special guest. We have Edgar. He is a jewelry designer based here in Miami, and he's also my husband. So, welcome to you both, and let's get right into it. We're going to start with a headline about Ozempic. I don't know if y'all have heard about this, but I just found a headline here, and this is from, I believe, Chelsea Handler. She's calling it Hollywood's worst kept secret. And she says, my doctor just hands it out to anybody. I don't know anything about this drug. What is it?
So from what I know, I believe it's a diabetes drug, and one of the side effects of it is a suppressed appetite. So I guess somehow it came to light that you could take this drug and not be hungry and lose weight. So obviously, like, Hollywood started doing it, and then it kind of became mainstream. The major problem is that I guess, like, Big Pharma doesn't have enough Ozempic for actual patients who need it. So people with diabetes are not able to access the drug because it's being sold on the black market to, like, celebrities. And so, like, I can understand that part of it. Like, you're robbing people who need it. Like, I get that. But, like, if you want to take drugs to lose weight, like, I don't think that's anybody's business but yours. Like, I don't know. I'm very unpopular opinion. Like, I don't know. I don't get involved.
I'm also pretty sure that this is a practice that has been going on for a long time, and it just came out to the lights, and now it feels like a relevant conversation. But I'm pretty sure that they knew for a long time that this was a hunger suppressant.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing here that it's not just an issue of people getting it on the black market. Getting it on the regular market seems to be outrageously priced.
Yeah.
So this person's insurance isn't covering it, and it's $1,600 a month.
Oh, wow.
For the Ozempic prescription. And that's just crazy. This reminds me of just a few months ago when it was actually the insulin that no one could get a hold of, and the price just kept going up and up. So
That's Big Pharma for you, baby.
that's Big Pharma for you.
In Hollywood.
So next up is Gay Days at Disney. So last week, 15 people carrying Nazi flags showed up at Walt Disney World. And not only did they have Nazi flags, they had signs in support of Ron DeSantis. So as y'all might recall, last year, Ron DeSantis signed what has been called the Don't Say Gay law. And this is effectively barring a lot of discussion and instruction on gay issues in the classroom. Since then, there's been this back and forth, right? So Disney criticizes, DeSantis one-ups. Currently, he's trying to take away Disney's tax incentives. And basically, there's this partisan battle between a public company and the government of Florida. So I'm curious, what do we think about this?
Well, first, I think
A conversation about
like Disney is not really like the patron of the LGBTQ community, and of course they have an agenda behind it. But if you are gonna profit from us, at least I appreciate that you're fighting a fight that I think is worth fighting. And I just feel like it's dumb from DeSantis to fight one of the major economic vehicles behind his state. Is just not a good decision. Instead of trying to work with them in a way that I feel like he could have started this whole conversation trying to limit their power, which is kind of what he wanted, but he just turned the biggest dog in Florida against him. And I just feel like even a political decisions, that's just not smart.
But say what you will about Disney. I don't want to speak to their corporate ethics, but they do have a strong voice about the importance of equality. And even in the park, we recently went to the park. Everything there has a rainbow on it. We stopped with one of the photo people. They have these photo people everywhere there. And she looked at us and she was like, "Can I ask what your relationship is?" And we were like, "This is a weird question." And we were like, "Well, we're married." She's like, would you be comfortable giving him a kiss? And like this is in the middle of the Magic Kingdom with families all around, right in front of the big castle. And you know, I just appreciate that about them, that they're really owning the love of Disney by the gays. And for some reason the gays do love Disney because
Because we all wanted to be princesses when we were kids. We are now. I don't know. I just feel like whoever's fighting him right now, I'm with them because it's just the vitriol behind his whole speech has become like unbearable for a lot of people in the state. And
and there's a couple more things of interest, I think. So Disney is also re-theming Splash Mountain, which is sort of iconic, and it's iconically based on a somewhat racist old Disney movie. So they're re-theming it. It's going to be Tatiana, what is this cartoon?
Tiana,
Tiana, yes,
the frog.
from The Frog Prince, I think it's called. So they're re-theming that.
I heard that.
And also they're changing some of their language. So they're cutting the greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from some of its fireworks shows to be more inclusive. Too much? Too little? What do you think?
I don't know. I have an unpopular opinion, so I feel like.
Let's hear it.
I mean,
Unpopular is okay.
Disney's for kids. Just like I don't know. Like Disney's for kids. You know, I get it's for parents and kids and whatever, but like, I just feel like we should leave the kids out of all of it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like even Pride things, like, I'm cool with Pride. I'm cool with, you know, but I don't know if like I want to necessarily explain to my 8-year-old stepdaughter, like, all of that right now. You know what I mean? It's just like.
So you don't want to be made uncomfortable.
It's not about being, no. It's not about being made uncomfortable. I feel like Disney is a place for kids and we should kind of leave anything out. Also, I remember like off topic, but not, I've been watching like old episodes of Law and Order and like language and words that I'm like, oh, they could never say that now. You know what I mean? So I think as we progress with the times, like, I understand making edits and I understand changing things for like inclusivity, but like, I feel like people are just like always offended now by everything. I think Ron DeSantis is a piece of shit. Like, I think he's horrible, and I think all his radical things that he says are just to win the Republican Party. You know, I think that he wants to knock off anyone that runs against him, and I think the more radical and the more right his agenda is, the more people will vote for him. I don't even know if he is really even serious about doing all the things that he says, but I don't want to find out, you know?
I do want to fill this out a little bit. So you don't want to explain to your stepdaughter. Like, do you have to explain when straight people are represented sexually in Disney movies? Because they are.
But that's just, I'm not saying that it's right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what it is. You know what I mean? I don't want to explain anything to her at this point. Like when I kiss her dad, she goes, ew, gross.
Yeah.
And we're straight. So I don't think that like it's about gay or straight. I just think sexuality in general.
But it's there, like the
there.
princess and the prince,
Yeah.
like it's there.
I found that when you don't speak about things, they become this taboo around it. And I just feel like that's kind of what happens with queer like presence in the media and everything. It's like this mysticism around being queer. And I feel like the more visual it gets, the more normalized it gets. And then like kids, I feel like there is a misconception that kids need to be like guided. And of course they should be, but they're also very smart, you know, and they like assimilate things super quickly and they can like differentiate what they like and what they don't. So I do feel like there is a need of like speaking and kids seeing representations of things that are just like maybe.
But it's not even the representation for me. It's like why was Pride invented? Because of the Stonewall riots for gay marriage. That was and police brutality. Like that's where it started from. And just like BLM, which was a scam, and just like Black History Month and Juneteenth, it's a way to make money off of minorities for profit, you know? Like I feel like is Disney really caring about the gay community? Like are they really caring? Like they're being represented in movies, but are they being represented in movies because they actually care, or it's because they want to look like it just get like for me it's just like, okay, you want to use us or whatever for an agenda. So I can't really say like, yay, Disney's doing a great thing when like, look, we're comparing it to Ron DeSantis, like a monster. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's not about not wanting to have a conversation with my stepdaughter whose aunt is gay, who she knows what gay is. It's just that like, I feel like, why does Pride in Pride Month, like, do people
Because-
actually know the meaning of Pride and what it's about? You know what I
also,
mean?
Children are gay. Like,
Absolutely.
Like I was a gay child, and I
Absolutely.
wish that like Pride had been there in my little podunk town in Burlington, North Carolina, to show me that I wasn't the only one.
I think there's not to cut you off, I think there's a way of making it accessible to children and teaching children and not just a fucking like, hey, you know what I mean? Like it's about education. Pride Month, non-Pride Month, kids shouldn't know about what being gay is for the month of June. It's about education in the home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, listen, if they're going to Disney and they're having a conversation about gay and straight, I'm all for it. But if you're pushing rainbow fucking Mickey hats.
But listen, also, like, getting back to my podunk town in the South, like, without external forces, I would have been a racist fuck like the rest of my family.
Right.
And it's only because I learned from outside of them that I'm a little less of a racist fuck, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's...
I feel like you have a point in the term that Pride went from being a protest to a celebration, you know, and I was talking to Joseph about that when we spoke about Pride, that it's not a celebration. It's really like us fighting for our life. It shouldn't be treated as a parade. It's not a celebration. It's not, of course there is the idea of diversity and like, and celebrating like the contributions that the LGBTQ community has in the world, but its source is us fighting for our rights, and we're still fighting for them. 100%. So it shouldn't be treated as a celebration. And I feel like it has been mixed like with brands like Target, Disney, Starbucks, like saying like, we put the rainbow and then we support them, but at the same time, that's why I said that I don't think Disney is the patron of our rights, because they have been throwing money at Republicans for so many years.
And Walt Disney was a fucking racist.
They've been supporting all the people that have been voting against us. So I feel like they need to pair their actions to what they actually speak about, and that it goes beyond just putting a rainbow flag in Mickey. That I am 100% for it. I do think it's important to have those symbols there, because now I've seen all the brands backing up from LGBTQ rights. You know, they say like, oh, we better not speak on it.
But for me, speak on it all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see you pay gay creators the month of June. Like, all of a sudden, when January comes, all these brands are like, hey, we want to book you for a shoot. And I'm like, miss me with the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I say leave the kids out of it. I don't say leave the kids out of it like, oh, I don't want to have a conversation about gay, straight. I say leave the kids out of it because at the end of the day, it's an agenda. So it's, for me, it's like, okay, you want to do it in Disney, do it in Disney. It's not about not doing it in Disney. For me, though, it's like, where's the motive behind it? That's where I'm at with it.
For me, the motive is visibility and being able to own my space in the world as a gay person, no matter where I am. And that's what I felt there that day when this young lady invited us to share this beneath the castle. It was nice. All right, let's pivot. Let's talk about Roe v. Wade. So we are approaching...
Don't want to get me. Y'all want to trigger me today?
We're approaching the 1 year anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So there's some interesting statistics, okay? After 1 year, 61% of respondents say that overturning Roe v. Wade was a bad thing. 38% say that it was a good thing. So less than 40% of Americans approve of this decision to limit a woman's right to abortion. There's some other interesting statistics here. 13% of respondents say that abortion should be illegal in all circumstances. And this is down from 22% in 1975. Okay?
Say the number that it
13% of Americans believe that abortion should be illegal in all situations. It doesn't matter if it's a raped 12 years old.
Or if you're going to die from giving birth.
Or if you're going to die from
Got
it.
it.
But there's a definite downslide in the amount of people who think that there should be less access to abortion. Yet the highest levels of our judicial system have removed protections.
I'm gonna let you start because you're a woman.
So when this came out, I did a lot of research and I read a lot and I talked to a lot of people about it. So Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. Planned Parenthood, which is the hub of women's health, especially for minorities, was invented by a woman named Margaret Sanger who believed in eugenics. And she believed that black women should not procreate. So she went around and tried to get them to have abortions and sterilize them. Okay, so that happened. Circling back now, we're going through Roe versus Wade. I was having a conversation with one of my clients and I told my boyfriend, and he was like, why would you say that? I believe that this whole abortion thing is because white women can't get pregnant. Most of the people that are not having pregnancies to term are affluent, not even affluent, but are Caucasian women because they have been using a lot of Western medicine, birth control, things like that. I also believe that it is ancestral karma from owning slaves. Don't hate me. This is just what I believe.
It sounds like
okay?
The Handmaid's Tale. I love it.
But
I'm
it
here
is,
for
but it is, but it is. And it's so funny because whoever wrote The Handmaid's Tale, somebody said how did you come up with that story? And she goes, because it's happened already. And it is happening, and it's been fucking happening, right? So this idea of, oh, let's ban abortion, people are like, oh, well, most of the people that are having kids out of wedlock or having kids that aren't planned are black people, so this isn't a racist thing. Well, what happens when these black women have kids that aren't planned? They go into a system. It might be a fatherless home. The mother is young, the mother is working, the kids aren't getting that care, and the kids are not getting that education, so we have more labor workers. We have more truck drivers. We have, not as educated upbringing, so these people are doing those jobs that we don't necessarily want to be doing, minimum wage jobs, labor jobs, jobs that might not offer health care. So this ploy, this is just me, you can fucking cancel me, block me, whatever, is about the fact that there's a certain demographic of people that aren't being able to have children. There's also a book called The Birth Dearth. It's actually a banned book, but you can find it and you can read it. You can kind of rogue if you're interested. I could send you a link. And this was all predicted. It was all predicted. I forget the author's name. I didn't finish the entire book, but the author talks about how going towards year 2000, you're not going to see single family homes, 3-4 bed. You're going to see smaller apartments. If you notice, everything that's being built, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, smaller, less people are having children. And that is stemming from the fact of all the Western medicine that we're using, the fact that all the inflation's gone up, so people are working more and aren't really thinking about family values. They're thinking more about survival. So for me, as a woman, none of that's my business. If you, as a woman, want to terminate your pregnancy, you should be able to. If you, as a woman, want to keep your pregnancy, you should be able to. But I just want to educate a little bit of where the judicial system is coming from, because at the end of the day, if any politician's wife or daughter or sister needs to get an abortion, they have the funds and the means to be able to do it. If I needed to get an abortion, I would have the funds and the means and the access to do it. And if any white rich person gets pregnant, they will have the funds and the means, the access to do it. This is limiting people of color, people that do not have the funds and the access to have safe abortion. Abortion will never be gone. Safe abortion will be gone. So either the child is, in the world without the best home situation, or the mother dies trying to get it to happen because they don't give a fuck about those people.
And I think if you leave the conversation about the religious, political, and all things view, this is a medical procedure that is gonna happen whether it's legal or not. Abortions are still gonna happen even if they're banned. I'm from Guatemala and abortions are not legal there, and a shitload of people abort. That is just something that is gonna still happen. And the only way of keeping these women alive, it's making sure that at least they have the right conditions to do this in a safe way.
Listen, I've had an abortion, so I can speak on it, and I have no shame in it. I got pregnant at 21 with my ex-husband, and I was like, we're not doing this. And it's funny because I called my parents, and my dad is like very Rastafarian Jamaican man. And I was like, my grandma had just passed away, so I was supposed to go home for the funeral, but I couldn't go because I had to go to the doctor. So I was like, hey, I can't come on Monday, I'm gonna come on Thursday. And my dad's like, why? And I'm like, and I told him, and he's like, no. And I said, what do you mean no? And he's like, you can't do that. And my mom grabbed the phone. And my mom is very liberal, white lady. Yeah. She was like, you do what you gotta do. We'll see when you get here. You know what I mean? And so it's like, fast forward. Was it a rape? No. Was it unplanned? Yes. Would it have come to term healthy? I don't know. You know what I mean? My life would have been very different. Would it have been better? Would it have been worse? I don't know. But I will tell you, I've never regretted that decision. Not once. I've never thought about it and been upset. I've never, ever. It was the right decision for me, and I stand by that decision. Yeah. And at some point, I am going to have a child, hopefully, God's willing. And that's it. But I just feel like, again, the same thing with pride. We were talking about trans children. It's like, just don't talk about, it's not your business, so just leave it alone. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I want to ask, like, how much percentage of these 13 people that say this, you know what I mean? What percentage of this poll are men just giving their opinion on what a woman should do and how she should treat her body? I just feel like that is not a conversation that should be polled for everyone, because you're not caring. And men are trash, and half of them just leave the woman to have their kids
unfortunately
by themselves. And
the issue is there, we're talking to men about these things, and then your issue is there is that we're talking a lot about things that maybe we feel like we don't have a business to talk about, right?
And that's what I feel.
But here's the thing, is that people are putting this into the judicial system, and it's being codified in and out of law.
By whom?
By our politicians.
Men. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's where it comes down to. And like, I come from, like, my dad's 80. And so, like, I come from a world where, like, you don't talk about sex, you don't talk about politics, and you don't talk about religion. And, like, that's kind of all we've talked about here on this podcast, right? So I come from a time where, like, you don't speak on those things. Where, like, why do I even know that you voted for Donald Trump? Like, your political agenda is none of my business. And while I don't agree with everyone's beliefs or opinions, I do believe in free speech, and I do believe you are entitled to your opinion. Now, of course, do no harm, but take no shit, right? When it starts to infringe upon my rights and my well-being, now, you know, but I feel like, I think it's great that we talk about these things. I think it's great that we can communicate and you know, but it's almost difficult when, like, everyone has to kind of be like-minded, otherwise it's like a shit show. And then it's like, well, if you believe this and you believe this and I believe this and we all believe the same thing, like, I'm not learning anything from you, right? It's when I speak with someone who doesn't necessarily believe what I believe in, I learn something from them. And it doesn't mean that I'm gonna agree with them. I might learn, like, wow, you're a piece of shit, and, like, I learned that, but I'm learning something. And I think that, like, we were just talking about, like, Instagram comments, it's like censorship and being able to, like, disagree with people has become it's become like a crime to disagree with anyone, to not have the same opinions as anyone. And unless you're dealing with, like, really emotional, mature people, you're gonna get canceled just of saying anything. Now, I'm not a Republican, don't get it fucked up, but I do believe in the fact that, like, I should be able to say, like, yo, when I go to Disney, I don't necessarily wanna see all types of shit and not be fucking killed for it or canceled for it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, so it's difficult because people want to voice their opinions and share their viewpoints to educate or connect, but then if you don't agree with, you know, the popular opinion, you're canceled. So it's like, where's the happy medium? Where can I express myself and be true to myself and talk about my feelings and my thoughts, which are just opinions, and at the same time not be bashed because as a Black woman, you shouldn't think like that. Yeah. You know, it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult. And that's why, like, people invite me on podcasts all the time and I'm like, I'm not gonna go. Because, you know what I mean? And I can still say all these things and not be a Republican. Like, it's become like, if you believe A, B, and C, you're this political party. If you believe D, E, and F, you're this political party, where, like, everything's just kind of jumbled into one. And, like, it just gets so like,
So, but what I hear from you, first of all, I think that sex, politics, and spirituality might be the better name for this podcast. Maybe we'll just change it. But what I hear from you, though, is an openness to discuss the themes and the ideas, right? And not every person who holds similar ideas is, right? So I appreciate that from you. And it's okay. I don't know why you're afraid of rainbows, but it's okay.
Why do you hate gay people? Tell me right now. No. I do feel like what you're saying is right. I don't think I rather deal with someone that I know what they're thinking.
Right.
Because then you can come from a place like you're being transparent with me, I'm being transparent with you. I rather do that, even if like your opinions are so far away from mine, but at least I know who you are, than someone that is like agreeing with everything I say, but behind you, it's like probably has a different agenda. You know?
I want to share an intricacy of my point of view on the Roe v. Wade thing, and that's that, I have a gut feeling fundamentally that life is something beautiful and to be respected. And I feel like deep down inside, like I want to call myself pro-life without saying that I don't believe that a woman should be restricted